Today I'd like to welcome a new face to Into the Mountain. Ross Turetsky is the founder of Grant Solutions, an entrepreneurial business seeking to raise money for clients via successful government grants, grant funding, and sharing the risks involved with this process with the client. Hi Ross, and thanks for joining me today.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Fiona. Thank you very much.
Good to meet you. Your business is based around applying for grants on behalf of clients, and I gather from reading your website you get to do most, if not all, of the legwork. Why do you think it is that many businesses just don't bother to apply for government grants?
Well, Fiona, you see, the concept of government grants is very enticing to businesses, because at the end of the day, what we're talking about is getting free money to undertake existing projects. But what they don't realize is when they actually look into it, there's a lot of work involved. And part of the work is because the government needs to be financially responsible in order to ensure that grants are not wasted. And if you think about it, I mean, grants are people's taxes. So what they don't want to do is they don't want to give grants away to people who are not eligible for them. So because of that, they have these really rigorous processes that once a business actually starts, it's really difficult to get to the very end. And even if they do get to the end, so many people actually apply that there's a very high chance that they're going to be unsuccessful.
So is it the case that businesses have a really negative attitude to grants because they've tried in the past several times, not got a bean and had the rejection letters and have just thrown up their hands and said it's too hard? Is that what you hear?
Oh yeah, in most cases it's actually easier for a business to do what they're already doing and make money that way than to spend sometimes 100 hours going through forms just in order to get a rejection letter 6 months later.
Do you see that grants can play a meaningful role in a business's funding or not? How do you view it?
I do believe that a grant strategy is very important, but you have to ensure that you're ready to receive grants, and you have to really assess your business competencies and also any available grants that are out there. So if there is a match between the two, then you really have to look at that as an avenue to get more money.
You just mentioned a short while ago that it's about 100 hours that, of time one would have to give up to going through that grant process and preparing for it. Is that rule of thumb? Is that what it takes for most grants to sort of the work required to submit?
Well, look, my answer to that as a company, as the owner of a company, is only if you want to get the money. That's the answer. You can spend as much or as little time as you want, but because it is just such a competitive process, there's generally 85% of people who apply are rejected. So what you have to be is you have to be at the top. And a way to classify this is there's such a concept as the funding pyramid, whereas 15% of people that apply are just generally ineligible, 25% are poor submissions, and then the rest 40% may be a maybe, and at the very top there's about 15 or 20% that are going to get funded. So a way to get the grants is you have to, through the quality of your application, actually go up the funding pyramid, and that's what a grant consultant does. They actually get you to the top. So,
just in terms of what your clients who come to you say, what benefits do they see in handing that process over to you? What do they tell you?
Look, they're just overwhelmed. They usually call a customer service representative, and they find out that most of the time they have no idea what they're talking about. It's just a lot of wasting time. There's a lot of redirection within different departments. And it really is too hard for companies that are applying. They're usually time poor. They have money and they have staff, but it's just they can't see a return on investment versus actually, spending the time and investing that time into getting the grants.
And how successful is your company in obtaining grants on behalf of clients? What's your strike rate? I guess how do you justify to a prospective client coming through the door to sign on?
Oh, look, there's two distinct values that we add. The first one is we actually do the bulk of the work, and we're talking about 90 to 95% of the work. So we save our clients over 100 hours of doing the hard yards. That's the first thing. But the second and even more important thing is that we actually increase the chances of them being successful by 70 to 90%. So not only do we do all the work, but the application has a greater chance of being successful.
Are there any that you say, look, there's no point going further? Are you honest with your clients in the sense that when you see your research is telling you that they're probably not going to get funded, do you then say, let's not waste your time on this one?
90% of phone calls I get, it doesn't go any further than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's because a lot of the people that actually call me, they're someone who generally haven't really considered what their organization is doing, what their business is doing. They just want some money. You know, they hear that there's some grants out there. They haven't really considered what the government is trying to achieve with those objectives. So they call me up and they say, hi Ross, or as commonly they refer to me, Grant. Hi Grant, is there any money that I can get? You know, I want a $50,000 or $100,000. And when I ask them, what are you actually going to use it for? They give me general answers. Oh, I want to start a business, and there's nothing specific. And that's not how the government works. They have very, very specific criteria and very specific objectives that they would like to achieve with their programs.
So are there any grants available at the moment for startups, for people in the startup space?
It's a question that I get commonly asked. Unfortunately, there's actually not a lot of grants available. There are some, and I'll mention them shortly. The reason why there's not many available is because, as you probably know, small businesses have the highest rate of failure. And because of that, if there would be a lot of funding available for those programs, a lot of money would be wasted. And at the end of the day, that's taxpayers' money. So what the government generally offers is some programs for businesses that already have some sort of a track record, and they are more comfortable to provide the money. The money that is provided is usually on a matching basis. So typically for every dollar that the government invests, they ask the business to invest $1 or so as well. But in answer to your specific questions, there are some grants within the city of Melbourne, and there's a startup grant. I think it's about $30,000. I have helped a client get this grant, but be warned, it's quite a lot of work, and there's a lot of competition for this particular grant.
And more generally, how do people find out about information on grants, i.e. to do some research before they actually speak to someone like you? Because I think there's no point coming to a service unless you have an idea of roughly which grants you might be eligible for, correct? Yeah,
that's exactly right. And I actually prefer that people will look through other avenues before they actually start contacting me, because otherwise they just call me up and I'm saying, look, go and have a look. I just redirect them back because it's very difficult. But with your specific questions, what I would do is I'll do 3 things. The first thing that I'll do is I'll actually search on Google. Google is your friend. What you do is you type in your specific industry and you type in grant, and you can actually see a series of search results that would contain some of the information, and quite often you'll find a grant for your industry, and then I would investigate it further. The second thing I would suggest is actually contacting your trade or association that you're a member of, and part of the service that they provide to their members is they'll actually help you with this process, and they would be aware of it. And thirdly and finally, if you run out of those options, there are a couple of government grant engines. I think there's the grant loan search entity that will help you as well. Just be aware that it's very often out of date. So your best bet is usually the first 2 options. So that is Google, and then contacting your industry association.
Okay. Thank you for your time today, Ross. It's been great to have you at Into the Mountain.
Okay, no worries. Thank you very much. I enjoyed being here. Take care.
I've been speaking to Ross Turetsky, and he runs Grant Solutions, helping businesses be more successful with their grant applications.